Okay, you should get a notification on your screen that says it's being recorded. You may have to acknowledge that. I'm not sure. We got that quarter. Okay. Perfect. All right. Okay, everybody, welcome. I appreciate all of you being here today. This is the fourth Ironworkers National Training Fund webinar. We've got a good agenda put together today. I would like to welcome General President Eric Dean is with us today. So we're going to have some good topics and discussions for you all today. And I'm going to review the agenda. You should have the agenda. It was included in the calendar invite. Plus, I sent it out on the listserv this morning. So you guys should all have the agenda with you. First off, we're going to do a little recap, talk about last week's webinar, you know, how that went, some of the topics we discussed. We are going to bring Brian Tannehill in, and he is going to give us an update on the IICB Certified Rigger and Signal Person program. We're going to start off with him because he's got a little scheduling issue he has to deal with, so he's got to get out of here. Then we're going to bring Mr. Dean and Mr. Worley in and talk about recruitment, apprenticeship, and the organized member. We'll then have Jason Quarter talk about the Ironworker Certified Welding Program and some of the updates and things that are going on in there. And then I'll give a grant update, talk about some of the grant funding things that we've got coming up, some of the irons that we've got in the fire, and then I'd like to highlight some of the local programs who've been awarded grant funding. And then we'll close out with a Q&A and a discussion. Like I said, this is an open forum, so please feel free to ask questions and comment on stuff. So with that being said, agenda is covered. We are recording. We're going to try to keep this under 1 hour. I'm going to turn it over to Brian Tannehill, and he is going to give us an update on the Certified Welder or the Certified Rigger and Signal Person program, specifically about hosting the certifications at your training centers, some of the things that you need to know, processes that you need to take to get your training facilities up and running to be able to facilitate those certifications for your members and the end users. Brian?
Yeah. So today, if you have questions other than the topic at hand, just send me an email or something, btannehill@iwintl.org, and I can answer any of those. What you need to know about given the certification at your local, you first have to have or be approved to. So you have to have a proctor and observer. You have to have the rigging kit that we're not selling, that we're selling it from the bookstore now. So we're no longer getting that from American Rigging Supply in Kansas City, Missouri. We're selling that from the bookstore. It's a better kit, I think, than what we was getting. It's at least now it's more uniform in how it's going out. One of the issues that we found was some of the items were not being manufactured with the defect that we needed in it. So we was getting a different test across the country. So make sure that you have a proctor and observer. Make sure that you have the rigging kit along with the mock load, the picking apparatus, and a 4-foot long tube with 2 picking points on the top, and then that bundle of loose material for jobs 1 through 4. Then whenever you get ready to give the exam for your first time, just reach out to me, give me a call, say, hey, you know, kind of walk me through the process. And all you're going to need to do is fill out the application that you want to take the test or you want to give the exam. You're going to send that to us at headquarters at ICB at IWNTL.org. IWINTL.org. There we go. I'll get it right in a minute. And then we'll send you out a form that will allow you to upload all of the documentation that you need to upload at the same time. So originally, the way that the program was designed was to have staggered data sent in. So you send in the application saying, hey, I want to give the exam. And then, so that had to be done 30 days prior. Then 2 weeks prior to the exam, you had to have all of the supporting documents sent in. The issue with that was sometimes we didn't get the information exactly when we needed it. So, or it was hard for us to get it all checked and verified. When you send it in as it is now, where you're sending it all in one document, then all the information comes in 30 days ahead of the scheduled exam. Now, we are supposed to go out and do audits of the training facilities that are given the exam. This also allows us to know who's supposed to be in your testing facility taking the exam, whether it be a hands-on exam or the computer-based exam. So having all of that information up front is really helpful to us in working the program the way that it's supposed to be. And then past that, have the exam on the date at the scheduled time that you're supposed to have it. Now we do know that things happen, but those tests, they're only set up for certain times. So like the computer-based exam, if you don't give those on the date that you're supposed to, those tests will delete themselves, right? You won't have access to them anymore. There's about a 24-hour window, and then you have to call us to get us to redo the exam. However, if you're one of the locals that we choose to audit, right, given the exam, and we show up and you're not there, then we have to ask, you know, after we get the documents that, hey, you did the exam, you know, well, you wasn't really there doing it. So that makes everything look bad. So that's kind of the process in how to schedule an exam. When you first do it, call me, I'll walk you through everything. And that way that initial exam is easily done. So is there any questions about that before I move on?
Brian, I had one. So you've got a local that sends their individuals or instructors to come take the proctor training that we do at the regional training centers. They go back, they've got their proctors, they've got their observers. They've got now they want to order the toolkit and get the frame and stuff. What kind of time frame do we see from when that order is placed to when they're going to receive those toolkits? Then secondly, once that happens and we're approved to do the certification testing, what kind of lead time do we need from the time we want to have a course to when we actually can schedule? Is it a month, you know, to process the whole thing, 45 days? What are we looking at there?
Yeah, so whenever you get ready to buy your kit, so there's a process to it. It's going to be 2 weeks from the initial contact to shipment, just because you're going to have to get approvals from JTC, from the chairman and the co-chair, one from labor, one from management. They're going to have to sign off on that. And then you're going to send out the initial request. You're going to send it to me. I'm going to send you back some other forms that have the pricing on them. And then you're going to get those approved, send them back to me. Then we have to get that to shipping, and then the kit goes out. So depending on, like, if it's going to Maryland, it's going to take a lot less time than if it's going to California. The initial 4 kits or 5 that went out, there was kind of some hiccups on how things was getting shipped, but I think we've got those well in hand, and we shouldn't see that anymore. So I would say that if you was wanting to schedule if you were wanting to proctor an exam, you need at least 45 days before your date to get all of the equipment to you and be approved to take the exam. So 15 days prior to submitting any documentation for giving a test.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the clarification. I noticed Courtney put the correct email in the chat there for everybody.
Yeah, she did.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian?
So one thing that I do want to say that's not about giving exams at your home local is coordinators sending participants to take the exam at the regional training centers to make themselves proctors and observers. We're finding that some people are coming to take the exam that are doing little to no study before they get there. It's, hey, go and take it. It'll be okay. You've been a rigger a long time. You're going to pass it. And the issue is although we have been a rigger for a long time, there's some technical things that maybe we have let slide that we don't remember as crisply as we could if we had studied a little bit. So for everybody that's on this call, if you'll go to the Ironworker website, ironworkers.org, you'll go under the training tab, you'll see IICB, click on it, and then go to the bottom. There's a exam blueprint that lays out exactly what that test is going to cover. And then if you're going to send instructors to be proctors and observers, make sure they at least look over that material so that whenever they come to take the class, they are extra prepared for the exam. I'm not saying that you can't pass the test without studying. Obviously, if you know the material, you know the material. But it makes it a lot better process for you as a student if you come in knowing exactly those things that's going to be covered. Now, one thing that we don't cover, which it's in the exam blueprint, but it's not really spelled out in the exam blueprint. We're finding that the most inconsistent area that we have is crane hand signals. That's the hardest portion for our members to pass in correctly. So, and what do I mean by correctly? Look, we're all journeyman ironworkers. We've all been signaling cranes for years. We know what we do and we know that it works. When we point, the crane moves. And that's what's supposed to happen. In a certification test, it's a little bit different because we want to know exactly the right answer, not pretty close to the right answer, because as a proctor, I can't say, well, this is what I think Greg meant, or this is what I think Chris meant. What I can say is this is what Chris did, or this is what he did not do. That takes bias out of the testing. So what we need to do is everybody that is on this call, tell all your friends, if you'll go to subpart CC to Appendix A, there's a list of crane hand signals that are acceptable per 1926.1400 subpart CC. We'll accept those crane hand signals. The other thing that we do, and probably the most missed portion, is voice commands. The reason why we're missing those is that issue of constant communication. So what is constant communication? If I'm going to move an item 50 feet and I say, hoist up, hoist stop, swing left, 50 feet. Swing left, swing stop. The issue is the pauses that I take may be too long. So if I was going to signal that crane 50 feet to the left, I would say swing left 50 feet, swing left 40 feet, swing left 30 feet, swing left 20 feet, swing left 15 feet, 10 feet, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, swing stop. The reason why I go to the distances being 5, 4, 3, 2, because that crane operator is going to slow down. So I don't have to tell him swing slow. I can just, when I start rattling off the numbers, he knows that he's getting to his point. So he's not causing an issue where that crane's going to possibly have an overswing where he has to swing back. So there's some issues there that, I mean, we've just got guys that say, you know, hoist up, and they don't say anything else till they say hoist stop, or swing to the right, and they don't say anything else until they say swing stop. So that issue is, it's a training issue. The other issue is using local dialect, right? Local crane signals that may end up causing problems nationally. If you do that in your area, if that's what you say in your area, that's fine. But what you don't want to do is teach that broadly for acceptability across the country. So that is that's kind of my spiel there. If anybody has any questions, be more than happy to answer those. If not, I'll turn it back over to James.
James, before you, I know there's some questions on the chat box. I just want to just reinforce what Brian said. You know, I'm the chairman of the Rigging Signal Person Certification Program, and Pete Hayes from Red Cedar Steel is the secretary. And when we sat down with Brian, I think it was a couple of months ago in DC, and Brian's let us know that, and I've told you this before, that a higher percentage of our members are failing the voice and hand signal portion of the exam. It kind of blew us away. You have to practice the correct methods and not rely on area practice when you take this test, because you're going to have issues. I know it sounds silly, but you're going to have to practice at home, practice with a coworker, practice with your kids. You got to do it out loud, because when you do get to the exam, there's going to be a little bit of anxiety, and you're going to get nervous, and you're going to rely on area practice, and you're going to fail it. Let's kind of use the CWI exam, for example. When I took the CWI prep and test in the 90s, I was told, go in there and make sure you know all the weld symbols and the metric system before you get there, because there's so much to learn. So know all these little things, because when you get to the prep course and the test, there's so much more you're going to need to know. That's one less thing for you to do. So thanks, Brian, for the brief report, and we can continue to talk about this. Bring your questions, and let me turn it over to James, because I know there's some questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, one of the questions in the chat was, are the original rigging kits obsolete? And I think Quarter kind of answered that question, that they are still good. There is some differences in them. You know, some of the discontinuities and stuff in there are a little bit different, but they are all going to be ordered directly from headquarters, if on the bookstore, right, Brian?
So in for the discontinuities that's in the jobs 1 through 4, right? So in the inspection, job 2, the discontinuities will be the same across the board. So I sent out an email early this year that asked anyone that had discontinuities that wasn't the same as what was called out in the program documents to let me know, and I would order those. We've ordered them. They're supposed to be getting shipped out this week or next week to all of those locals that told me that they had issues with their kit. But every kit should be exactly the same. And yes, the old kits are still good. We didn't change anything yet. So you'll still be good with the old kits.
All right.
Brian, just to double check, if they do need replacement parts, is that at our cost? Our department's taking care of it. Is that correct?
No. So on the replacement part, on the initial replacement parts, where the kit was sent to them incorrectly, yes, we covered the cost of that. But if they have a piece where somebody takes a choker out, uses a choker, messes it up, and now they have to replace it, they have to replace that at their cost, but they need to call us to get those replacement parts.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Perfect. Does anybody have anything on that before we move on? I know it's a big topic and everybody's discussing it and working through it right now. Okay. If you do have any questions, reach out to Brian Tannehill directly. And again, Courtney posted the email in the chat. Okay, moving
Yeah.
on through the agenda. Brian,
Hey,
got
James.
one more quick thing, yeah?
Yeah, Kevin Crocker, if you want to give me a call at 202-431-9914 after this meeting is over with. I've got a long drive ahead of me, so I'm more than happy to sit and talk with you about whatever issues that you have.
Can you say that number
Thanks.
again, brother?
202-431-9914.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, perfect. Okay, so we moved around on the agenda a little bit, and we're going to move into, we've got Mr. Dean here with us today. We are super excited to have him and his perspective in here this morning. We're going to be discussing recruitment, apprenticeship, and the organized member. We'll have Eric talk about some stuff, and Lee's going to talk about some things. I don't know if you guys, hopefully guys and gals, noticed Mr. Dean's letter in the Ironworker magazine. I don't know about you, but it was pretty clear the statement that he was trying to make, and the you know, the goals that he was trying to get across. And you know, I messaged Lee right afterwards, and I was like, man, you couldn't have been any more clear. And so we felt that it was important to bring Mr. Dean on here today and give him the opportunity to expand. Welcome.
Thanks, James, and good to see everybody. For those of you who don't know me or my background, you know, I started my apprenticeship in 1980. My dad was an apprentice. My brother's an apprentice. My son is currently a journeyman, serving an apprenticeship. So I come from the training community and one of the staunchest believers in our apprenticeship program. But I came to the realization as we're getting busy after COVID is a lot of times the coordinator doesn't control the tap on the inflow of the intake of the apprentices. The local tends to knee jerk and overreact when there's demand after sometimes it's too late. So for too long, we've preached about keeping a 20% apprenticeship ratio. And on a national basis, we're there. But we got some locals that are below 10% because they don't want to add any unemployed members to the bench and there's no demand. But the problem with that rationale long-term, when you think, is if you look at the workforce, every business manager and every president of the local should have the data to predict the average age of the members and when their anticipated retirement waves are going. And you can count heads annually on how many people are actually retiring. So how many people you got to bring in. So this fall, as we meet in Denver for their apprenticeship coordinators meeting, I'm going to challenge you to think about it between now and then and look at what are the best practices for retention rates. In other words, we're graduating about 50% of the people we take in nationally. So if we take in 20,000 apprentices, we're only spitting 10,000 out. Granted, we like to say that's the cream of the crop, and you guys do a great job in training our journeymen and women to be top-notch ironworkers, and some people do wash out. But we're trying to figure out a better way of the retention of the workers, and obviously having employment is probably the best retention factor, but we're looking for that. So we got our core curriculum, and I wrote in the magazine on our intake of apprentices, you're either a 2-year, 3-year, or 4-year program, depending on the length and scope of which type of classes you're running. The issue becomes is the apprenticeship program going to be the supply chain for the work that we need, given the fact that coming out of COVID now, we're seeing electronic vehicle expansion like we've never seen before. And they want them all built union because they want them built yesterday to make money. Every one of those EV plants comes with battery facilities, which are larger in size and scope than a traditional combustion gas engine supply for the, say, big three or whatever the case is. So we're seeing work bubble up post-COVID in a lot of places where our membership density isn't the best. So even if we wanted to ramp up the apprenticeship capacity, I'm going to give you an example, and I'm not picking on Memphis. I don't know if anyone's here from Memphis, but there you go. Hey, Doug, we got the largest car plant in the world being built there. So the local, as the PLA with the Ford Motor Company probably calls for about 1,000 ironworkers. The local can't sustain having 1,000 ironworkers on their books, and they need a 30% apprenticeship training regimen there to comply with Ford's PLA with the state of Tennessee to get their tax subsidies. The local can't go to 300 apprentices. So, you know, this is one of those age old, we got to beg, borrow, and steal from neighboring locals. The local has to do for itself what it needs to do. But the other issue is we're going to have to organize at a greater extent than we've ever done before. And that means we're going to bring in members who don't have every certification and every skill. So not only does it put pressure on the traditional first through fourth year apprentice and that training regimen and that schedule, but we're going to have to make do coming up with OSHA 30 courses, welding tickets, rigging certifications, and all the things that the open shop may bring some of the tools to the table, but they won't have our in-house things. So it's a pretty good position to be in from the standpoint of we're going to be covered up past the point of capacity of the apprenticeship training program, and the organizers are going to have to take in open shop, organize members, and then round off their skills. Puts additional burden on you guys. So like everyone needs everything yesterday, and in order to dispatch, we're going to need OSHA 10s, OSHA 30s. We're going to need the various skill sets that are necessary. So not only am I putting pressure on the international reps, not only am I putting pressure on the business managers to work cooperatively, all the shit always falls on the apprenticeship coordinators and the training community. Quite frankly, that's where everyone's left to do the work, right? Whether it be a welding ticket, whether it be whatever the case may be. That puts more scheduling burden, more classes, more instructors, and everything on you. So I'm basically thanking you for everything you've done to get us through COVID. Thanking you for everything you do on a daily basis to keep us at our national 20% apprenticeship ratio, but challenging you to say, how do we get our local unions not to subvert the apprenticeship, but to actually organize new members, round off their skills, continue our apprenticeship training program, and additionally do all this additional training and certifications, and whether it be with the LMS system, whether it be in the hall or whatever the case may be. So, you know, I spoke at the impact meeting and I went through a pretty detailed case of where our union market share was, where our members were, where the mega work projects are, and where the projected booms are, and then what's the demand. You know, actually, how many active ironworkers do we have in the area versus how many are we going to need? And so in the olden days, we boomed a lot more than we boom now. I don't know if it's the soccer dads or baseball dads, or people just don't travel as far. Now, we got nuke boomers. We got red badge people that chase the red badge circuit. But this thing here is going to put some challenges on us to the point we got chip plants coming from west to east. We got EV plants coming from west to east. We got steel mills located in 4 different areas, brand new steel mills, eastern Arkansas, I believe West Virginia and Ohio. That's in addition to the 1,000 people we're going to need in eastern Arkansas. That's in addition to the 1,000 people they're projected to need for the Ford assembly plant, stamping plant, and 2 battery plants that go along with that F-150 Lightning plant, also known as Blue Oval. That's just one area. Columbus has had an open call for men in Ohio. They're going to prospectively get a 10-year chip plant. Arizona's got 400 people, I believe, working on a chip plant. New Mexico, Florida. So our southern swath is probably some of our lowest density. So what I did is in the last magazine, I championed what the apprenticeship program does and the challenges that we have. In the next magazine, I'm revisiting my speech to the union leaders. And if you were a coordinator and happened to be there, and revisiting in the journal and with a video to show the members, this is a call to arms. And, you know, I equate it to before the national apprenticeship standards were implemented in the United States. There was a period right around post-World War II, we grew 100,000. So that means we didn't have an apprenticeship program to grow our members. We went and we grabbed people that had work boots, a work ethic and skills, and we found a way to get them their skill sets where they need to be. So now it's my belief that we need that opportunity. It's never been like this. And you know what I haven't mentioned yet? Not one word. Both Canada and the United States both passed massive infrastructure bills. And in coupled with this large industrial sector spending, you're going to see infrastructure come to every state and province based on the population density of the area you live in. The more populated you are, the more resources the federal government and the state are going to put towards long-awaited bridge road projects, transit projects, airport projects, ports. It's not all coming at once, but we don't have the workforce today. And if we don't, guess who does? The laborer is going to go grab our work. The operator is going to grab our work, the pipe fitter. We're all in competition for the same person that wants to have work boots and blue jeans. And how do we recruit them, get them in the union and round off their skills? So I just want to say thank you for what you always do. I'm looking forward to being in person in Washington and getting to see you guys. I'm looking forward to the apprenticeship competition in Denver after 2 cancellations. It's going to be good to just be together. And I could tell you at our first impact meeting, it was good to see people. If you're lucky enough to be at the convention, I was worried to death we were going to get everyone sick when we didn't have that many reported cases of COVID. One's too many, but I look forward to seeing. I get a lot of enthusiasm by being with the training community because you guys are the backbone of what we do. And with that, I see Mr. Casey has a hand up, and I don't know, James, how you want to facilitate or handle questions? Do I go through you, through the chair? You seem to be handling them.
Yeah, I don't see, if anybody has their hand up, I don't see the actual icon. So if you
I
wanted
see
to
Mr.
pipe in,
Casey
please
has a
do.
white hand there. I assume he's got a question. Tom, do you have a question? Or is that an accidental hand on your screen? Brother Casey?
I'm not seeing it. That's strange. Usually
Oh,
they
yeah,
pop
there's a
up on
white
my screen.
hand. Oh, you know what? Never mind. That's my cursor. It turned into a hand on the screen over his picture. So disregard that. That's just a moron operating a computer.
Okay, well, I did have something. I mean, you talk about the importance of recruiting and the apprenticeship ratio. You know, clearly pathways for organized members is a big deal. One of the struggles, you know, when I was coordinator and training director was, you know, working with the local unions, the organizing department to really kind of facilitate and create better pathways for those organized members, whether it be apprenticeship or just becoming a journey level worker. What are your thoughts there on how apprenticeship can better partner with and work with the organizing department and the local unions to get some of this work done?
I had a long talk a couple of years ago with the organizing department. It's like they were siloed like black ops, right? And they worked independent sometimes of the councils, sometimes of the local union leadership, most definitely independent of the training community. So the one thing that I've asked, I've appointed Chad Rink to be my assistant to kind of keep a handle on where the workforce shortages are going to be and whether we need to put organizing demands, calls for travelers, or additional apprentices into the area and the neighboring areas. And I think the organizing team is working a lot more in concert with the councils. And I asked them to appear there. And then I've asked each council to report where the workforce demands are to Chad so that we can interact and cross collaborate between the training community and with the organizing department, because it isn't we can't, if we just strip the open shop of the workers and we put them to work and then they get laid off after that job, they either go back to that contractor or they leave that contractor to stab us and cut our throat again. So we have to have a comprehensive plan to do something with the employers and not just take the workers. But there are going to be times where the demand is so great, taking the workers, we'll put the contractor that he'll come calling to get the pool of skilled workers if we can get the majority of them in our area.
All right, thank you. Tannehill, you got your hand up?
Brian's got his hand.
Yeah, if I can get my thing done, if I can get my computer to unmute. So my question is, some states have agreements where apprentices can go from one state to another and work, but some states don't have agreements that way. So is there a way that as an international through the Department of Labor that we can make it a little easier for apprentices to travel from their home local of register to another local to help those guys out in the case where, you know, like Memphis needs 1,000 workers, need 300 apprentices. They can't sustain that over a decade. So they can't sustain it over 4 years to get those guys through the apprenticeship program. And their locals really can't take those guys in either because they don't have the workforce, the infrastructure there to sustain that many members. But a local like Tulsa, who's not too far from there, could send apprentices over to help them out. And is there any way that we can get with the Department of Labor to kind of ease that a little bit so that apprentices who are working out of town for an extended period of time, maybe a year or two, would still get credit for that time being in their local through their apprenticeship program?
Well, I'm going to challenge Lee as the training director to help me. I can get access to the Department of Labor. The difference is I don't know where it's a state apprenticeship committee versus the federal. I used to call them BAT, but it's not BAT anymore. So whatever the acronym is now for the federal versus state. I don't know where those subtle differences are, but I'd say by this fall, we need to sort that out. And then the permission for traveling workers internally, we had some of that is embedded in our Constitution and some is in our standards, but clearly that's a good idea. I've told locals that are close by bigger cities, what does it hurt to take in 50 extra guys and just have them boom like 4 or 5 counties away to where the big pocket of work is? And yeah, you get the burden of the work, but if they home port all the bennies or whatever, long term, this is going to benefit everyone. Everyone's always afraid to have just enough supply to meet the demand so that nobody's bothering the coordinator for work or nobody's bothering the president or the manager for work. And that's an age-old problem of supply and demand of the workforce. But when we get busy, first thing we do is open up the apprenticeship spigot. And the first thing the contractors tell me is that ain't making me any money because I need more experienced, top-notch ironworkers. I don't need a bunch of apprentices running around on a job without any direction. So it's kind of a happy balance. There's no easy answer, but it's a good question, Brian.
And
Lee,
if I could chime in, Brian, into the rest of the group, you know, it's been probably 13 years since I sat in the coordinator's chair, 11 years since I was apprenticeship director for the Northwest. And the laws may have changed, and I'm going to refer to Kevin Crocker from Local 29 as he's the current coordinator. Back when I was the coordinator, we had apprentices that traveled out of state when work was bad. And 90% of the time, if the local wanted to receive them and put them to work, it worked out. But what I found out the hard way was during a state apprenticeship audit, it found out that one of the apprentices was out of the area working out of this jurisdiction, which was against our guidelines, and that they would not count any of those work hours toward his apprenticeship. Is that changed right now? I guess I'd have to refer to you guys in the field or the coordinators right now in your area. I do know that every local union that has an apprenticeship program, all your employers have to sign, I believe it's called the training agent form, agreeing to provide supervision, safety, et cetera, on the job site to the apprentices. So the state registering agency is relying on your program to teach your apprentices the right way in your area. And they go, we don't know what's going on in the other area. Therefore, we're not counting those hours. In fact, they were such a pain, they made the employer who accepted that apprentice out of the area go back and pay him journeyman wage.
Yes.
And that's the issue. So you got to be very careful when it comes to apprentices working out of their jurisdiction.
But
Um,
I guess, Lee, I don't know. I used to have a better handle of which were SAC states versus not. And that'd probably be helpful just to see some kind of chart or graph so that we kind of know that answer, if it's the state apprenticeship committees, or is it the federal people as well? And then we'll have to define these areas that got work, whether they're SAC or Fed, so we know the specifics of that
we
question.
do have a contact at the Department of Labor that James and I and the rest of apprenticeship and training department refer to. I can ask that question and maybe get an answer and put it on listserv as soon as I get a hold of the person.
I remember going to my first apprenticeship competition, and at the coordinators meeting, there was a SAC representative that spoke to the SAC folks, and there was a BAT representative. And, you know, I came from a BAT state, so I just like, you know, I left Kansas, and I lived, not literally, but like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, you know, I went somewhere else. I go, huh, I didn't know there was even such a thing. I always just lived in a BAT state world, and that's what I thought the federal ran the apprenticeship program. So, you know, going to those conferences taught me a little bit about the variant, but I don't know enough about the variant to be smart enough to respond. So.
Perfect. And I think it's going to be, you know, I might be able to add some context. As training director of the Pacific Northwest District Council, I was chair of a reciprocity committee that was working on reciprocal agreements between Montana, Washington, and Oregon. And so we have that as a template if some of that work needs to be done, if we want to reference some of that. But I think the big takeaway there is, you know, first you got to know whether you're state or Fed, and start those dialogues between those representatives, really. Anything else on that?
Well, just keep ramming them kids through the program, keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate what you do. I don't take it for granted. I used to teach 68 nights a night school, big fan of block training. So those that you've adopted the block training and listen, God bless you. Those of you that give up 68 nights of your life away from your family and devote yourself, God bless you. And but the main thing is we've perfected the art of apprenticeship. But I'm going to go back to my smart ass comment I always tell everyone. Right behind this computer screen, I'm looking at 7 gentlemen who were the original founders of our international. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they had a driver's license. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they were US citizens. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know. The one thing I am 100% sure of, they didn't graduate in any apprenticeship program to join this international. You have to defend our standards and lift us up to train us, but we can't define serving an apprenticeship as the only way, as a pathway into this international. So you work with us and continue to round off their skills. I appreciate what you do. And I cannot stay for the whole thing. I got to cut for a 2 o'clock meeting. So I appreciate the invite. And I look forward to seeing everyone in Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. We appreciate you. Any final questions? Looks like we're good.
Show those apprentices that video that talks about the detriment of the market share of work, and not to be so pompous that we're the only people that do the work, because we're doing less than 20% of the work in our country. And we got a real opportunity to grab market share here, but it all runs through the training program. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to kind of move over, same kind of topic, more apprenticeship specific. We're gonna have Lee Worley come in and talk about the importance of advertising, community outreach, career fairs, things of that nature. We all know that. He's going to talk about advice to coordinators and apprenticeship staff regarding organizing community outreach, how we as an organization can be more inclusive, and then really just meeting the goal for this bar that we've set as apprenticeship. Lee?
Thanks, James. I mean, I've been in your seat for years, and being an apprenticeship coordinator, you know, you wear many, many hats. And sometimes I thought that I got so involved in the shop or in the classroom, it was nice once in a while to get out, to go to a career fair or do some recruiting. But I tell you what, I got tired of that real quick. I don't know if it was just me or the rest of the community, because I found high school career fairs back when I was coordinator was a complete waste of time. That may have changed. I know around the country, some will work with high schools, some will not let you. If they don't, the teachers or counselors don't get engaged with the student about going out and meeting different people at that site and getting cards and finding out and making a homework assignment. They're just going to sit there at that donut pile, eat donuts and play grab ass. And I got tired of it, but it is an important part of the job: recruiting, advertising, getting the word out. You know, like Mr. Dean said, the work is here right now, and it hasn't been this good in a long, long time. We have to keep our enrollment openings, you know, more than once a year. I know there's some programs out there, they're only open once a year or every 2 years or even 3 years in 1 or 2 cases. And I just don't understand that. If you got a 5-star recruit coming through the door wanting to be an ironworker, if you tell him no, he's going to go somewhere else, whether it's non-union or to another trade. So we got to keep our enrollments, our openings, you know, at least once a month or every couple months. This once a year thing, I really challenge you to rethink that. You know, I went to a Hispanic career fair one year as a coordinator, and I came back with zero people. And I thought to myself, okay, well, nobody talked to me. I was a tall, lanky redhead, and I didn't have the right skin color. So the next year I thought, okay, I'm going back to that career fair, and I brought 2 of our Hispanic apprentices. Heck, we had 50 people come in for applications the next day. So be aware of who you're talking to and who you're recruiting, and try to be smarter than the average coordinator. And, you know, if you're going to a women's career fair, and, you know, have some of your female apprentices show up, et cetera. You got to do what you can, take advantage of the situation. A lot of the things I worked and was successful at, it was by trial and error. And I'll use the organizing department as an example. So we had we probably still do, the local 29 organizing department in the 90s and 2000s was really strong. And when the organizers brought in an organized worker who maybe had a couple years experience but no training, they sold them on the apprenticeship. You know, it maybe take weeks, months, or maybe even a year to get that person's trust to come over to the union side. They know that organizer, and as soon as they hand that person off, it's like that person's been cut, the cord's been cut, and they don't want to get lost in the system. You really have to take maybe an extra step or two to welcome that organized member, let them know that, hey, you've got skills, we appreciate it. But unless you have an OSHA 10 card, a forklift card, an aerial lift card, et cetera, where our apprenticeship programs, mainly in the first 2 years of any apprenticeship program, all your safety certifications are given. They're going to be coming in on weekends or night for journeyman upgrading. Now, how many of you have journeyman upgrading programs that sit silent because the journeymen don't want to come into class? It happens a lot. So when they're apprentices, we've got a captive audience. So we try to tell that organized member who might be a little bit older, maybe a little bit wiser, but doesn't have a training background, he's got to go through the apprenticeship. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody speak up when I'm done here. When you organize a member, it just wasn't a requirement back when I was a coordinator, but it is now. If you recruit an organized member and you grant them credit, you have to verify proof of those hours worked. Is that correct, James? Jason?
In some cases, yeah, I believe so. Pay stubs, previous work experience, letters of recommendation, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't just take your word on it. And that's what they kind of did years ago. But you really have to dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure that your your standards of apprenticeship, Appendix D, you've got all the direct entry language up to date. A lot of them include candidates that went through the Job Corps, apprentices that transfer from a different local, helmets to hard hats. We've got a couple different organizing efforts, direct entry, any sort of Native American or women pre-apprenticeship program. Make sure your standards are up to date. If you do not have that language in your Appendix D, call headquarters, will help you. Call your regional director, whether it's James Owens, Jason Quarter, Brian Tannehill, or Mike Sampson, and they'll help you update your standards. I haven't heard a horror story yet or lately regarding somebody's standards still having a 1999 stamp on it. That I would just shake my head. I think everything at the very least, you got to have probably at least 2010. If you're up to date on everything, I believe it's 2019. So you got to have that direct entry stuff. Again, going to recruiting, it's not always, I didn't find it the most attractive part of the coordinator job, but it is important. You have to do it. You've got to, everybody's got an EEOC policy you have to abide by. Do what you got to do to get the members in right now, because the work is here or it's coming. I'm going to bring it back to James or Jason or Brian. Michael Sampson couldn't join us today. He had something happen. He's fine, but he couldn't join us today. But if anybody wants to pop in and talk about recruitment or something they're doing that's working for them or not working for them, please speak up.
I hear some topics come up, Lee. You know, and you hear Mr. Dean talk about this. I think he mentioned it at the impact or the convention of you know, the question was asked, if a journeyman loses their driver's license, are you going to remove them for the program? Are they going to be ineligible for work and things of that nature? And we've had a lot of discussions about, you know, some of our apprenticeship standards. The intake portion says that I mean, I know people that they have to have a high school diploma, even that doesn't even stop at a GED, valid driver's license. You know, it just seems in some cases that we could, you know, be so restrictive and not as inclusive as maybe we should at least be having a discussion. What are your thoughts there as far as your intake requirements for apprenticeship programs?
Well, we are the filter system to the local union. That's a fact. We try to set up all new journey members, or we try to set up our apprentices to be successful as a journeyman. And that means getting to work on time. Not every job we have is on the bus line or on the metro line, et cetera, or in a downtown area that's 30, 40, 50, 100 miles out of the area. So you have to get there. I know a lot of good journeymen right now that maybe had a license and lost it. They had a license in their apprentice and then they lost it. They're still getting the work on time. I don't ask questions. All we care about right now is getting the work on time, showing up every day, doing your job safely, Monday through Friday, and not being tardy or leaving early. So I get the driver's licensing as far as you're trying to set them up for success. Whether or not kicking them out is the way to go. I think if you got an apprentice who has a driver's license and then loses it, instead of kicking him out, let his attendance show on the job site. Is he still making it to work every day? That's the key. So I don't have the golden answer, but you know, let the employer tell you this guy's not making it. How's that?
Yeah.
And it's not for you to kick out an apprentice. It's the employer who's the one's telling you he's got a problem. He can't make it on time. He's not showing up, or he's not doing the work, et cetera. So does that help out, James? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the main takeaway for me is, you know, if a high school diploma was a requirement of being an iron worker, I wouldn't even be here. And I got you know, probably suspect that a lot of us wouldn't be. So I think we can, you know, be a little bit too restrictive in some cases as far as our intake. And I don't think that a high school diploma is really a measurable tool of a good worker. You know, I mean, it shows some dedication and devotion to finishing and accomplishing something. I understand that. So anyway,
hey, we have some of our members with a GED or high school diploma with no college running multi-million-dollar projects with no college degree.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. Any questions for Lee? That kind of wraps up our segment on recruitment, apprenticeship, and organizing. Does anybody have any comments or questions? We did have one question in chat. Could someone please let me know how many competitors Chicago District Council is allowed to send to Denver in September for the National Apprenticeship Competition?
All that information was sent out to the business managers and the district council presidents, and I believe that was even included on listserv to all the apprenticeship coordinators. So I do believe the coordinators do have it. If you don't, I can get that information this afternoon and send it out, but check with your coordinator or your business manager. He does have that.
Perfect. Okay. We always try to keep these under an hour. I think we may run just a smidge long today. We had some good content from Mr. Dean and Mr. Worley. We're gonna move forward. through the agenda. I'm going to give a quick update. You know, this whole thing started as grant funding and getting together and discussing grants. So I want to make sure that it's still a piece of what we're doing here. I think it's a very, very important aspect of what we do as apprenticeship and training. It's a good tool for intake, community outreach, all of this stuff that we're talking about. I want to start off first by, highlighting a couple locals that have really stepped up to the plate and taken this thing and just run with this grant funding concept and writing proposals and being awarded monies. Local 732 out of Montana, Brian Rigby and Jim Wanacott there, they just got awarded a $45,000 grant from the state. And this is a state that just ran right to work last year. So for them to get a $45,000 grant from the state to basically supplement intake, it basically pays every apprentice they take in. It pays them $3,000 for intake, tools, consumables, all kinds of stuff. And so I just really wanted to thank them for, being active and taking those steps. And I've been working with Brian and them folks over there, and there's more in the pipe there. Levi Velasquez, I just spoke with him, local 27 out of Utah, just got awarded a $40,000 grant for apprenticeship and journeyman training. Basically, they just said, the state said, hey, here's 40 grand to help pay for consumables and anything that you can think of that you need to conduct your apprenticeship training and your journeyman upgrade training. So, I mean, that's just phenomenal, free money there. I know that Gary Armstrong out of local 5 just submitted a $600,000 proposal for global wind organization training over there in local 5. Still waiting to hear if they get that or not. And I know that Gary Brown out of local 399 submitted a proposal, substantial one, to the Gaines grant out of New Jersey. So it's catching fire. People are working at it. People are embracing the grant concept. We're learning and we're discussing and we're teaching each other as we go. We've got the ABA grant, the Ironworkers International Pre-Apprenticeship. We should find out next month if we get awarded the $3 million for that. That's going to be huge for all of you to be a part of that 3 million and host those cohorts in your area. Something that you guys should be watching out for is the Stanley Black & Decker grant. You can Google it. It's 25 million over 5 years, 5 million a year. Basically, it is anything to help promote people to get into the construction trades. So keep an eye on that one. You don't have to be a huge entity or an intermediary to apply. Any 501c3 can qualify. So you can go to stanleyblackanddecker.com. And they've got a link there to the grant. I think it comes out in October, so you've got time to prepare your proposal. I'm sure the National Training Fund will be working on something too. The other one that we're working on is the WANTO grant. I don't know if you saw that come out from the Department of Labor, basically women in apprenticeship and non-traditional occupation grant. It's 4.3 or 3.4 million. I can't remember. I'm dyslexic, but they're awarding 9 grants over the, I think it's 2-year contract. And I am actually talking with Vicki O'Leary and the Tradeswomen Incorporated on how we can partner and help do some of that work there. So there's that money. Let's see, Chris Tobiasen is in here. I just sent him an email today. WIOA just released last week. That's the Workers Innovation and Opportunity Act. Some of you probably have heard of WIOA funds. It'll be something that we're teaching to at the regional or at the annual training in Ann Arbor and in our grant class. It's really good supportive monies for your apprentices who kind of qualify for lower income. And they just released $1 billion for 2023. I mean, it's just an astronomical amount of money. So maybe if you want to talk about that or have me send you that link, just let me know. But a lot of good grant stuff going on. I'm really excited to see all of you guys and your programs really taking advantage of these grant monies. And I talk to new people every day about grants. So I just wanted to thank you all for being a part of that. Any questions on those grants? Richard says, we are trying to convert from a 501c5 to a C3. Our lawyer recently recommended looking at becoming a 501c4. I don't know specifically, Richard. I know that the Pacific Northwest District Council is currently trying to get local 20 or the Pacific Northwest District Council is trying to get theirs turned from a 501c5 to a C3 because they want to merge with local 27 out of Utah, and you can't merge two different 501c classifications. So send me an email. We can kind of talk about that. I can keep you updated what's going on there. I know it is hard to change from one from the other because they're going to be like, hey, why do you want to do that? They don't like to do that very often. Your trust attorneys and stuff are definitely going to have to get involved there. But as far as the 4 designation, I'm not sure. But let's talk further about that. Anybody else on grants? That's my quick burn through. So I give quarter time here. Okay, awesome. All right, so we are going to wrap this thing up. We're going to give Jason Quarter. We've got some changes to the Ironworker Welder Certification Program. You may or may not have heard that Ed Abbott retired, and Jason is kind of taking that into his wheelhouse. He's going to talk about some of the program updates, a little bit about online verifications and renewals. And Jason Quarter, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Mr. James, how's everybody doing today? I want to hit this real quick so we can get through here. I will take questions whenever you guys need it. A couple things. One, yes, Ed is retired, and Lee has asked me to watch over the welding program. So a lot of your questions and stuff can come straight to me. I'll make sure I put my phone number and my email address inside the chat box. Earlier in the chat box, I put in a weldercertification.org link. I would try to keep a hold of that. That's a quick link that you can check for welders qualifications to see if they're updated. Right now, because of the pandemic stuff and a lot of the issues of getting materials in, we're starting to get to a point where it's going to be hard for us to print the welding certification cards. So with that link that I put in there, you can give that link out to contractors, to the hall, to anybody else. All they will need is that member's book number to go into that and check verification that that member is valid on his welding certifications. So it's something that we're looking at trying to resolve. On that same note, I've been working with IT and the linked union. I'm sure you guys, different locals around the United States, are working with linked union for their Halls app to develop a training app that goes inside of that the members will be able to go on to their certifications and be able to look at all their welding certifications at that time when they're uploaded. And it'll also have a little share button. So if I'm working out in the field and Chris Tobias is my welding inspector and he walks up to me and says, hey, I need to see your certifications for welding SMAW, I can pull up my phone. It's sad. I mean, we always say we don't want people on their phones, but they're going to have it anyways. So get that phone and say, here's my digital welding card. And if you want, you just press a little button and it will automatically populate it into an email that you can just hand them, the inspector, the phone, or the contractor. They put in their email address, press send, and it will actually email them that right to them. The other couple of things that will work with that is within this app, I'm working for it to send the welders push notifications. So the member will get a push notification on their phone. Hey, you have 30 days to submit continuity. And then 15 days, hey, you haven't submitted your first 6 months continuity. And then maybe even 2 days before, or we have to design that. So the members actually will get continuity reminders on their phones for each welding process that they have. And they'll also be able to work with the app to actually run their continuity. So the program will actually know what dates need to be in there for their first 6 months or 180 calendar days. And if you don't put in the right dates, the app will not allow you to send in a yearly continuity for upgrading that certification to keep it valid. So that's something that we're working on right now. We're hoping it will be out at least by September. There's no guarantee, but that's kind of what we're going with. It also works with a new WCP website that IT is developing. It's going to look very similar to the other one, but it will be a new system to go on. There'll be a little bit of learning curve, but it's not going to be too difficult to learn how to do it. Within that also, that new app, I believe the app, but I believe the new WCP will be able to also, the members will be able to pay for their recertification. So if they've had their A1 test and they've lost it and they have to retest it, there'll be a place in there that you can actually slide the computer over to them and they input their credit card information. So nobody will have to deal with money orders or checks or anything like that. It'll all be on the member to do that. And so now snail mail will be out of the picture there with that. So when whoever's processing those certs comes in the next day and they're doing it, they're able to put in and allow that member's welding certification to process without having to wait for the check to be received here at International. Another thing I want to touch on a little bit is, I know a few people have taken it, is the AWS's WPQR class. I'm not saying it is a mandatory thing right now, but AWS has, I've talked to a lot of people about it. They have the QC7 and the QC4. They're planning on combining them, and I think it's going to come out this year. I'm thinking, there's no guarantee. In that it says anybody that's giving welding tests will have to have this endorsement. I don't know what the grace period is with that. And then I also don't know how often or if we're even going to need to have it with our custom program, but I imagine it's going to be pushed onto us. So that means everybody at our testing facilities that is giving welding tests will have to have this. If it works out that way, it's a smaller test. It's only a 2-day course. I'm hoping to get it ramped up so that we can actually, Rafter and somebody else could do it in Michigan. It's only like a 50-question test. The nice thing about it is that it's a true endorsement, so it will qualify everybody for their 9-year once they have it, which is nice. So instead of having to sit in through 40 hours or something like that, you can sit through these courses and do it. I'm actually scheduled to take my endorsement this Friday. So another thing is that in the past, a lot of the WCP files and stuff like that were always asked to be in paper form. I'm okay with having paper form, or from here on out, if you want to put them into a digital form, scan everything and have files. So when myself, James Owens, Brian Tannehill, Mike Sampson comes to your facility for an audit, that they would ask for any things. And as long as you have a file for it, I don't care if it's digital or paper, hopefully it's all digital or all paper, not half and half, then I think that would be acceptable for me. So does anybody have any questions?
I just want to, while the questions are maybe gathering, I just want to reinforce that in Denver this September, the apprenticeship coordinator meeting, apprenticeship competition, regarding the coordinators meeting at the 2016 convention, the delegates approved the mandatory session for all apprenticeship coordinators to attend the apprenticeship coordinator meeting. Most of you may not know that business managers have to go to a mandatory course when they're the coordinator, or excuse me, when they're the business manager or business agent. And we have a live meeting every 2 years. We held it virtual last year, and we're going to start doing a virtual coordinator meeting on and off here. But even if you do not have a competitor at the competition, I need you at that coordinator meeting. And if you're having any pushback from your business manager or et cetera, or your JTC, give me a call. Let me talk to them. It's an important 2-day meeting. You're going to get a lot more from Jason regarding the welding program, as you're going to hear a lot more from James Owens, Tannehill, Brian Tannehill, Mike Sampson, and some other guest speakers. So just a little promo on the coordinator meeting, and I'll turn it back over to James.
Thanks, Lee. Jason, appreciate it. Good stuff. Good, good. I'm so glad to hear the movement towards digital. And I seen we had a bunch of thumbs up when you said that too. There were people clapping, everybody. So that was good. Glad to hear that. So that really puts us through our agenda and kind of jumps us into a Q&A open discussion forum. I know we're running a little bit long today. If you'll notice in chat, I put the YouTube for the National Training Fund YouTube page. All of this webinar will be available there within a few hours. I'll have it uploaded. You can also catch the last one where we talked about some cool stuff. We're going to continue doing these hopefully on a monthly basis. And then the second link in there, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a National Training Fund Facebook page where we have a bunch of information and links and stuff going on there. We'll also post these there as well. So feel free to click those links, subscribe to them, like them, set up for notifications anytime any of these things happen. You will see it. Jason Quarter's got his number in there if you've got any questions for the weld program. Does anybody have any open topics, open discussions? I did get a text message, and I think Jason, this one might go to you. Is there any update on kind of the IWATS programs, and where's that sitting with some of the issues that have been brought up in the past, or is it still kind of being worked on?
Specifically to what? I will say this. I don't know how many are out there, but this is probably going to be good news too, is me and Bart have been really pushing on getting a way that the LMS will talk to the ATS. And it's being worked on right now. I think I would say that we're within goal line, first and goal to getting that accomplished. What'll happen is at the end, it'll probably be rolled out in Michigan with the new program that'll be out, is you'll download an Excel file and upload some information. You'll send that into IT or somebody here at the office. We're working on that. And then all the students' information that you had them do, the LMS will go right into their ATS. And we'll know you will not have to do double entry into the LMS and then put them all into the ATS as well. So that'll help out that way. Now, the other question with I'm not exactly sure what the question is asking. I need a specific, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, and it didn't come through. Rafter, you got your hand up? You got something, buddy?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that linked union. Now, is there a way that possibly we could have a work process app in that? Do you have any feedback on that, Jay?
Yeah, we're working on that with him as right now on doing that. So with the portion of the coordinators will also be able to send out push notifications to your students on what classes are coming up, and they'll also be able to put in their work hours as processes, and you'll be able to generate a report at the end to see where all your students are and how many work process hours they've done. As in, if they're over on welding and they're lacking on rigging, you'll be able to see all that in the report. But that is something's coming, Mr. Rafter. We're working on that. I just literally had a meeting with Steve from Link Union on Friday.
No, I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot on your plate. Are you going to discuss it a little bit more in Denver by any chance, or do you think it's even that close?
I'm still thinking September, so it's going to be real close right there. So I'm hoping in Denver we'll have, at least by July, I'm hoping to have a lot more information. We'll see. It's how IT and Linked Union and our department is able to get information to flow from one program to the next in a way that's not going to compromise anybody's issues or anything or information. So I'm hoping by July I'll have more information, but I'm sure we'll have quite a bit of information in September.
Yeah, a lot of upgrades with IT. I was on the Zoom for the LMS. That was a well done by Bart, and happy to see that that's migrating over as well. So
nice. All right. Thanks, Rafter. Quarter. Anybody else have any open topic questions before we shut it
James,
down?
before you sign off, I just want to say congratulations to Ed Abbott. Today is actually his last day on the payroll, and he'll probably get his first pension check tomorrow, June 1st. So He's done a great job at headquarters the last 20 years. Wish him the best, him and his family, and we're going to miss him, and I'm happy for him. So just want to relay that to everybody.
That's the goal. That's the goal. We all need to get there. Kevin, you've got your hand up. What do you got, bud?
Yeah, for that first LMS Zoom meeting you had, is there a link? I missed it. Is there a link I can go to watch that, or?
I don't know the answer to that question. I know that Bart sent it out on the listserv last week that it was kind of short order on that first one, but there are 2 more. I'm registered for them as well. We'll get that information. Jason, is he there today? Can we ask that question?
Yeah, I will ask him, and then if there is a link, I will ask him to repost that on the listserv.
Okay, perfect. All right, good question, Kevin. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. We did go a little bit over. I just want to say again, I appreciate everybody being here. This is important stuff. This is important work that we're doing. We need to have these conversations and make sure we're all kind of communicating and working together in this stuff. And I just want to appreciate you guys taking the time to be here and the input and feedback and being part of the discussion. And I hope that you all have a great short week, and we'll get to this weekend. And if there's nothing else, have a great day, and you'll see emails coming out for next month. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, James.
Good job, James.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, James.